Hello, everyone, and welcome back, Dana.
Thank you, Maddie. Good to be here.
Fab. Okay, so we're going to do something a little bit different with this session. And we're going to move into advice led content that's really going to help you as agents get those Florida bookings over the line. So we thought we would present some fictional questions, scenarios to Dana that we think that you agents might get asked by a client, and then kind of advise you on how to respond so that you really are ready for anything that a customer could possibly throw at you. We've got three sections to this. So we're going to kind of talk about some difficult logistics, and then follow up with some accessibility and D&I queries, and then responsible travel as well. So if you have any thoughts on what we're talking about or any feedback, please do put them in the chat box. So starting first with the logistics, Dana, I thought the first one we'd start with hurricanes, given the follow on nicely from the last session. A client could ask, I'm worried if I visit Florida with my family, I'll get caught up in a hurricane. So how can I avoid our holiday being ruined by Mother Nature? What would you say agents can advise should they come across that scenario?
Sure. Well, first of all, pretty much anywhere that you would want to visit has some chance of having some sort of natural disaster. It's just part of the game. Florida may have storms. Uh, California may have earthquakes and wildfires, blizzards in the north part of the country. So there's always something. But Florida is very, very good at informing the public on a potential hurricane significantly in advance. There's no real way to avoid, the potential of a hurricane. But if you plan in advance and you are traveling in hurricane season, there are procedures that are in place to keep everyone informed and as safe as possible. Travel companies also give visitors the option of flying back home before a hurricane makes landfall. And as I said, there's usually plenty of warning time, sometimes as much as 2 weeks. So there really is plenty of warning time to make necessary arrangements. And the Visit Florida website is a great resource during these times and is constantly updated with information on weather events. So I would say, come on to Florida, don't worry too much, and it'll all be fine.
Yeah, it's great advice. Very reassuring. It helps reassure clients. Fantastic. Now, talking about the parks in particular, the parks are obviously are very, very popular with the UK market. What if a client wants to visit all the Orlando parks with their partner or their family, but they've only got a week to see them? That I know it's an unrealistic request, but what would you say agents advise?
Right. I think that is just not possible because all of the three major parks, Disney, Universal, and SeaWorld, all have within them multiple parks. So it just would be impossible in 1 week to visit all of them. So the best way to maximize value would be to pick one and then buy a multi-park, multi-day ticket so you can hop within the Universal, Disney, SeaWorld, overall park within the various parks within those. If you really want to go to each one of them, that is possible in a week. You could just buy a single day ticket and then move within the parks. I do know that once Epic Universe opens, they will initially only be selling 3 day tickets. They will not have single day tickets. So that's something to keep in mind. The real key, though, is to pre book your park tickets before travel because the parks do change their daily ticket prices depending on the time of year, demand, US holidays, and so forth.
Okay, great. No, thanks. Sticking with the parks, but now talking on the budget side of things. What if a family comes and says they want to visit the parks, but they're really, really concerned about budget and they don't think it's going to stretch as far as the parks? Is that something that agents could still sell? And what would be your advice for that?
Absolutely. So there are plenty of ways to make a Florida amusement park trip budget friendly. People need to plan in advance. Travelers can consider waiting for special offers. So that's something the agents could look out for. And then, such as the Disney dining plans, they will help save on food and beverage costs once the family is in the park. They can also bring their own food into the parks. So planning ahead, packing some snacks and water and so forth would save money. And also book in advance for the best value in flights. Also, another fantastic way to save money on a trip of this kind is to book into a vacation rental rather than a hotel, because then the family could cook meals there. They could do grocery delivery from, for example, Publix. Instacart will allow you to order groceries online and have them delivered to the vacation home. And then they can prepare their own food, which is much more economical. Um, there are several options for payment plans that families can use to pay for a holiday in manageable installments. So that is another mechanism that families can use. And then exploring beyond just the theme parks for free or low cost activities is a wonderful option, and one that we actually quite encourage at Visit Florida. Get out and see the beautiful nature that is present in and around the Orlando area.
Absolutely. That leads me nicely on to the next scenario about exploring more of Florida and kind of moving around the state and getting onto those off the beaten track destinations. What if a client wants to do that but isn't able to drive? Are there any alternative options that agents could suggest for them?
Yes. Well, we have the Brightline train now in Florida that connects Miami with Orlando, and it stops several places in between. So that is an easy way to see a tremendous amount of the east coast of Florida all the way up to Orlando without a car. We also have several flight options in within the state of Florida. I travel within Florida by air frequently. It's very easy to do. And then once people are in the destination, there is a myriad of options to get from point A to point B, including a lot of Uber, taxis, buses, and so forth. So, not a problem at all.
Okay, great. Good to know. I've actually taken the Bright Line myself, and it's a fantastic experience. So I'm a big advocate of that.
Mhm.
Um, Great. And then kind of the last one on logistics. What if a client's been looking at Florida holidays online, which we know a lot of UK travelers do? And what if they claim they've seen lower priced options online than the breaks that an agent is suggesting, and ask why? What would be your advice on that?
Well, I mean, certainly people can book direct if they'd like, but that does not come with the extra perks and the protections that a client will get by booking with a travel advisor. If something goes wrong when they're on holiday, all of you realize that travel advisors provide a lot of benefits and resources for travelers that people just won't get if they book directly online. So I would just say no, they should know what they're doing, and you get what you pay for, basically.
Mhm. Absolutely. Thank you. Okay, so moving on to the accessibility and DEI questions. I first wanted to ask about travellers with autism. Maybe a client has two children. Say one of them's under 10 or two of them are under 10. One of them has autism, and they want a Florida holiday that has something for both of those kids. What would you recommend?
Well, I would encourage all of you to go directly to the Visit Florida Accessible Travel Hub, which is on our website. It is full of information on attractions and activities for visitors with all types of disabilities, including autism certified museums, galleries, and theme parks, such as Legoland. And within Legoland, the Peppa Pig theme park and Dinosaur World both have autism specific things that children can do. Many smaller attractions are also autism friendly in Florida, like the Florida Aquarium in Tampa, which hosts sensory friendly days. So, again, all of this and more is on the Visit Florida Accessible Travel Hub.
Great, that sounds like a fantastic resource. I can see my colleague Sarah's linked it in the chat there. So if you did want to go and have a look, you can click on that. Okay, so the next scenario might be a family traveling with a child who uses a wheelchair. Maybe they want to go to the parks, but they're concerned that the child might not be able to enjoy as many of the rides as they would want to. Yeah, what would you recommend?
Well, there are many rides across all of Florida's theme parks that allow people to stay, children and adults alike, to stay in their standard size wheelchairs on the rides. So that is not a problem at all. We have people in wheelchairs enjoying these parks all the time, every day, and they will have a wonderful experience. In addition to theme parks, many of our state parks and beaches are wheelchair accessible. And we also have kayak launches and other things that can handle a wheelchair if people plan in advance. So again, hit that accessible travel hub on visitflorida.com and you will find all of this information.
Amazing. Thanks, Dana. Now, producer, I think we have a video that showcases some of these accessible experiences in Florida to play. Amazing. Looks fantastic. So, next up, the next scenario is about crowds. Some travelers might not be comfortable in big crowds. So, Dana, what would you recommend if a client comes along and says they want to visit Florida's attraction parks, but one of the travelers they're traveling with doesn't feel comfortable around big crowds? And do you think it could still be an option for them?
I get that. I don't love big crowds either. And so I would give them the advice I would give to myself, which is to try and visit during off peak times. I wouldn't go in the middle of a US holiday or that sort of thing. So if you stay at one of the resorts in a resort hotel on site, they almost always have hours that are only for hotel guests, so they can get that early and or late access to the parks and avoid the crowds that way. There are also a lot of opportunities outside of theme parks in Florida that come with no crowds. For example, in Ocala, there is a fantastic zip line park called the Canyons. I actually have done it. Most people don't think you can zip line in Florida, but you can, and it's significant. You can zip line over these water features, and it's all natural. So, there's no crowds there. Airboat through the Everglades to spot wildlife. And also in Kissimmee, just south of the theme parks, is Lake Kissimmee. And there are some amazing places where you can take airboat rides there. And I have actually done that as well. You see alligators, beautiful birds, plant life. It's beautiful. So there are a lot of options to get away from those crowds.
Fantastic. Lots of opportunities to get that adrenaline rush elsewhere. Okay. Now, next up, I wanted to ask about traveling solo as a female, and maybe an agent might have a client come to them and say they want to travel to Florida as a woman and on their own, but they're worried about safety doing that, and that can be a concern when people visit loads of areas of the world. So, what would you say, Dana? Would you say that Florida is a safe option for female solo travelers?
Florida is one of, if not the safest state in the United States. It is right up there if it's not the safest state. So that's first of all. We have very low crime here. As a female myself, I am very comfortable traveling in Florida solo. I stay in hotels alone all the time. I drive by myself all the time, and there is just no issue. I mean, obviously, when we travel anywhere, anyone should just, be smart and not walk alone, in dark places at night and those sorts of things. But it is a very, very safe and hospitable state. People are generally wanting to help. And I think that female or male solo travelers can have a great trip without any issue at all. I would highly recommend it.
Amazing. Thank you. Okay. And one more question in this section. It's for LGBT plus travelers. They want a holiday and they're concerned about feeling welcome. What would be your answer there, Dana?
Absolutely, they're welcome. In Florida, we have always prided ourselves on being welcoming to everyone. And we have many destinations that promote LGBTQ festivals year round, have accommodations that are LGBT specific. I mean, there are several that come to mind: Tampa, St. Pete, Key West, Fort Lauderdale, Miami. I mean, Orlando. All of these cities and really the whole state is very welcoming to LGBT travelers, whether it's a couples trip, a family trip. We really have something for everyone, and there is no issue at all.
Brilliant. Thanks, Dana. I can see Jill's popped some info in the chat there about what customers need when visiting the parks. Can use Blue Badge in America, so lots of fab info in the chat. Michael's asked a question, Dana, about the best month to go to Florida for fewer crowds. So which would be the off-peak seasons, would you say?
Well, I mean, we do. Florida has great weather, and it's a wonderful place to visit year round. So it's hard to say really the best months, but from personal experience, I have been to Disney in April and found it very, very uncrowded. It's been a while, so I can't say that that's the case today, but April 15th is tax day here in the US, and I went on April 15th and there weren't many people there. But I would just say, I'm sure the parks can provide that resource to you, and they would be happy to do that. I just don't know offhand, because Floridians don't mind the heat. So we are happy to travel in the heat of summer where some people might not want to do that.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay, so moving on to the responsible travel section of these kind of made up scenarios. We might have a client come to an agent and say that their daughter really wants to go swimming with dolphins during their holiday to Florida, but the parents might know that it's not ethical. What alternatives would you suggest an agent recommends in that case?
Well, so I live in Tampa, Florida, and it is on the water, and there are dolphins everywhere. So a great option, maybe not swimming with the dolphins, which frankly I wouldn't do myself, but you can certainly take a boat, and they are plentiful to go and see the dolphins, spot the dolphins. You can take a snorkeling cruise where you can swim, and a dolphin may happen to come by, which would be an amazing experience. The Northwest Florida beaches from Pensacola to Panama City Beach are perfect for this, as they have the highest concentration of bottlenose dolphins in the US. And in addition to dolphins, let's talk about another wonderful mammal, the beautiful manatee. Crystal River, which is just about 1 hour north of Tampa International Airport, is the only place that visitors can swim with manatees in the wild. And I'm sorry about this. This bright Florida sunshine is coming through my blinds and is on my face, but
Oh,
that's
don't apologize for the sunshine ever.
yeah, that's what that line is. But yes, Crystal River, the only place in North America that you can legally swim with manatees in the wild. There's no touching, but they will just come up and snuzzle your toes, and they're just amazing. And that is a fantastic experience. And one more option is to visit sea turtles that are being rehabilitated before they're put back into the wild, and that is at the Turtle Hospital in Marathon. There is also a place, and that is in the Florida Keys, sorry, and there is also a turtle rehabilitation facility in Palm Beach, or Palm Beach County. So that is another option. But there are lots of options where children can see these wonderful creatures in nature, which is something that can't be replaced by an aquarium or a zoo.
Absolutely, I agree. Okay, then just more generally on the sustainability topic, if a client comes to an agent and says that a friend might have suggested Florida might not be a sustainable choice for a holiday, do you think they could be right or not? What would be your thoughts on that?
Florida is a fantastic choice for a sustainable holiday. Travelers can choose from over 300 accommodations that are in our green lodging program. We also have several voluntourism opportunities within the state. People can travel on the Bright Line as opposed to renting a car if that is something that they feel comfortable with. Or we have many electric vehicles for rent here in the state of Florida, and we have an extensive EV charging network. So that is also a very viable option. We also have a lot of eco-friendly activities like kayaking, biking, hiking through our 15,000 miles of trails here in Florida. And so visitors can enjoy the state without leaving any sort of carbon footprint if they do those activities. So yes, Florida is a wonderful place for sustainable travel, and it just is up to people what they want to do.
Brilliant. Yeah, I love that you've got the EV network in place, because I know lots of destinations around the world have struggled with that. It's great to hear that Florida isn't. So that's brilliant news. Okay, we actually have another video to show now, which is going to show you off the beaten track in Florida, all the kind of adventure activities out in nature that clients can have. Fantastic. Now, we've picked out quite a few challenging but rewarding scenarios that agents might come across when selling holidays to Florida. Is there anything else that you wanted to flag in the session, Dana, before we wrap up?
I think you've covered it.
Yeah.
If any of the agents that are within this conversation have further questions, you can check again our Visit Florida website. And also, our UK team is always standing by at Gosh PR to answer any questions that you might have. So, just don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. But I think, Maddie, you covered it.
Amazing. Thank you, Dana. Really appreciate your time. And thanks to everyone who's commenting in the chat. I can see Jill from Visit Florida is answering all of your questions there. And Sarah's been sharing the links. So hopefully you have everything you need to go away and sell holidays to Florida to everyone who has any question. So thank you again, Dana. And we will now move on to the next session, which is the first of our training presentations. And we're going to be hearing first from St. Pete Clearwater. So thank you. We'll see you there. Enjoy.